Hi guys, today this is the fourth episode. Fourth lesson of this Python series, and well, in the last three episodes, we talked about the print function, the print function, and then some of the mathematical operators. I think, I kind of forgot. But now today, we're now going to move on to lists and all the the types of lists. And well, you may know what this means if you have worked quite a lot with the Scratch lists, as the Python version is kind of the same thing. It can store multiple data. And in the Scratch lists though, it can only hold numbers and text or strings in this computer language. But in Python lists, well, some data types, that is, can store values of other lists too, not just text or strings. They can also hold true or false values, or boolean data types or boolean data types. So let's get started. First is our classic lists. Okay, I didn't mean to run that. I'll just call my list A, but you can call your list anything you want. I'm going to to assign a list, you use square brackets. To assign a normal list, you put square brackets. These square brackets? Yeah. I'll just write some random numbers, like say hello. We can also put numbers in, like 1, 2, 3, basically any number. We can also put decimal numbers, like 12.5. We can also put true and false or none. These are the Boolean functions. These blue numbers you see, and this none is also a Boolean too. And the none too. Yeah, and I told you before. It can also put other lists too. A list inside a list is called a nested list. So yeah, then we can also print our list, and it will print out like this. Well, as you can see though, the entire list, including the square brackets and the commas, are included. Okay, but what if we want to select one of these elements in the list? Say I want to select this number 1 here, to assign to some variable, or to want to print it out. For that, we will call on. For that, we will use this. Call in the index of that element, or for Scratch lists, the number 1 is the first index on a list, but for Python and other text-based programming languages like this, the number 0 is the index of the first element of this list. In this case, the element that has this 0 as an index is the first element, or hello, and it will print out hello. You can also assign that to other values, to other variables. As you can see here, I set B to the first element of this list. Okay, so now we know that we can assign the elements of And so yeah, this will be 1. The index of this one will be 2. It will be 1. Sorry, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then there's 8. This list considered. This is the 8th index. Yeah, sorry about that. I got someone trying to ask me something. So where we are again? Oh yeah. What if we want to change an element in our list? Well, we can call on. We will assign that value. And I'll just replace mine with hi here. We will assign the first element, which is hello. We call 0 in here. Then that will just place whatever we want in here. Whatever we want to replace in here, then we'll print to display that on our terminal. And the hello changed to hi. Oh yeah, you can also do other data types like integers and floats and maybe other lists and other normal lists. A list can hold basically any value, any data type. Well, lists like these that you're able to change change an element by calling the index of the element and then assign it to whatever element you want. They're called mutable lists. Mutable meaning being able to change. Mutable meaning being able to change. Next, our rundown for the list is finished. Now let's move on to another list type called the tuple. What is a tuple, you may ask? Well, a tuple is basically a normal list, but you cannot change the elements that are inside it. Well, you can manually change them though you can manually change them though in the program, but you can't change them by calling the index of the element and then assigning it to whatever value. You cannot do that for a tuple. So it is immutable. Not being able to change. To call it a tuple, you will do these the normal brackets. The normal brackets you would use for defining a function, like say the print function here. And then this, a tuple can, and yes, a tuple can still. But tuples, just like lists, can hold any values. And this includes other lists and tuples. If you're wondering what this is, that's another data type I haven't mentioned, but I will mention it. Okay? Just after the tuple. And yes, we can also print out the list. Okay, so if you can't change the list, what if you can call an element of the list? Like, we're not changing, we're calling an element. We're just trying to call the first element of one. Well, can you do that? Well, yes, you can. You can call an element of a tuple, but not change the elements that are inside the tuple. Well, since you can put in a print function, you can also assign the variables that are inside the tuple to other variables. That's our tuple. That's our breakdown for tuples complete. Now wait, I'm gonna put this way again. Remember, remember this, remember this complicated looking thing. That's a list type. And what is that list type, you asked? Well, that list type is something called a dictionary. What's a dictionary? Uh, well, wait, I'll just clear up some code. So a dictionary is like a list that contains variables. That contains, well, variables or these keys that you can change. For example, the name, this is the variable, and John Doe, this is the value of this key, or I like to call it variable, but you can call it key. So this is the value of this variable. Of this variable, and the value for all the variables in the name can be strings or integers or floats, but not other lists. I believe. I haven't tested it out yet, but I will, and I'll see, and I'll debunk that and I'll try and debunk it in the next episode. The key doesn't matter. For example, the place where the variable should be can be replaced with the value, and then this can change into the h. That also works too. Well, the order of how you do it doesn't really change, but I'll just replace it back. Plus, it makes it more comfortable to look at. And just like all list types, you can print out the list. But that's not all dictionaries can do. You can change the value that is assigned to this key. To change that, you'll call in the key. You'll change the name of the key or variable you want, and we'll change it to whatever you want. I'm just gonna change the John Doe to Jane Doe. I'm just using these names as an example. Okay, you don't need to copy them. You can write any other name you want. And we will print back the new list, which will then change the name. Well, one thing about the dictionary is that you can't have duplicates of these variables, with even though they have different values assigned to them. You cannot have duplicates, because if you do add a duplicate, the programs is just going to overlap the value of the duplicate to the original. So it's the same as changing whatever's inside it. Speaking of adding new elements in the list, Why not we do that? Why not we do that for the list? We cannot add new elements to a tuple, as a tuple cannot be changed. I mentioned that before. Well, to add new elements in the list, you just use the append function to add a new element that will be the last of the list. For example, if I use this, the program will add 4 in the list. You can do that because normal lists are mutable, meaning that they can be changed. And if we put in our new value, it will show the new variable we added. Well, since you can add new variables, you can delete elements that are inside the list. By using that, you use the remove function. But whatever you put inside this must be an integer. Must be an integer for that to work, as said here. So if you're thinking, can you add or delete keys in a dictionary? Well, why not we test that out? Well, I guess we tested it and we can't. So you can't really add new elements in a dictionary. You cannot use the append function for a dictionary. I mean, you add new keys in the dictionary by calling out the name of the key you want to add, and then assigning it to the value you have to add. It could be a string or an integer or a float. I told that before. And that's how you add new keys into a dictionary. Or variables. So now we've made a complete rundown for the dictionary. But before we end this video, I want to introduce another type of list called a set. Well, a set is basically a fancy word term for a list. This is basically a fancy term for a list, but the main difference is a set can only have different elements. There is no element that is identical. You remember in the lists and tuples there was a list index for every variable. For example, the first index was 0, the second index was 1. In the set, there is no index, meaning all the elements can be unordered. However, just like normal lists, they're mutable, meaning that you can add data, you can add new elements in them, or change new element, or change elements that are already inside. Well, however though, as I realized, you cannot add a dictionary into a list normally. Well, first you need to call. First you need to well, in order to add a dictionary to a list without causing an error though, you need to make that dictionary immutable, meaning that you cannot change the values that are in there. Well, to do that, you need. Well, I've already made some code for that. Wait, no, I just remembered. Well, you can add a dictionary in normal list, tuple, in a tuple, but not in a set. That's where. Okay, so there's this frozen set function here. If you're not wondering, it just makes the set the set list immutable. Hence the word frozen. To do this, first you make a dictionary. Then this is very specific, but you need to add a tuple with an example as the first two elements. These are first two elements, and then you put a semicolon, and then the name of the list you gave. I just named mine as diction. And well, same for this one too. I also made it non-mutable. And this is if you do follow the if you do follow these accordingly, you should be able to add a dictionary to a set without causing a type error, as the dictionary is now immutable, so it won't make an error. Well, don't forget the ending brackets to close the list. That is very important. Well, now we know what the data types of lists are. Why not we make a program using it? I'm just gonna make a program that checks if if a number you wrote is inside a list. Well, to do that, uh, you can just use the in. I'll just use the in check, the in. That will check if it's inside the list. Dude. Sorry, background noise again. Sorry, it's just background noise.
I thought you were not recording.
Well, we'll first check if B is a digit using the isDigit function here. Then we can check if B is an A. We'll use the in. We'll use the in function here. Then we'll use the else function. This is like the if else block in Scratch. You probably know what that is if you know. So you probably know the function of the if else. If the if else. And then to complete this, we'll just put else in here. This is another if else checking if B is a digit. To be more safe, we'll turn the number into an integer. And check if our program works. I'll enter 9. That is in the list. And yes, the number is in the list. What if I write something like 11? And no, the number is not in the list. But if I just write a text. And yes, our program works now. Well, you can write any program you want. I just wrote this as an example. And not only that, we also learned the in function, which checks if B is an A. If the value of B is one of the elements in A, then the if else check. Basically, if this condition is true, then that B is a number. It will trigger the codes that are inside here. Otherwise, if it is not true, it will trigger whatever is inside the else here. Basically, I've already told you, it's the if else function in Scratch. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll meet again in the next lesson. Bye bye.